back to the Gemara in Gittin, Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. V'ha'edim chotmin al haget mipnei tikun ha'olam. This is the quote from the Mishnah that the Gemara is going to discuss. So I'm going to highlight it in red so that you'll know it comes from the Mishnah. Mipnei tikun ha'olam? Question mark, exclamation point. De'oraitahu. What do you mean mipnei tikun ha'olam? What are the words mipnei tikun ha'olam doing there? De'oraitahu. It is de'oraita. Meaning the idea that the idiom sign on the get, the Gemara is saying, it actually comes from the Torah. Dichtiv, and here's the proof for the challenge. As it says in Sefer Yirmiyahu, Uktov b'sefer v'chatom. You should write it in the book, in the document, and sign it. So I'm going to put all of this as the challenge, though you could distinguish and say that the dichtiv is really the proof for the challenge. Actually, maybe I'll do that. I'll say this part is really the challenge, and this is what I would call a challenge proof. It supports the challenge. Amar Rabba, lo tzricha, le Rabbi Elazar, de Amar, edi masira karte. Takinu Rabbanan edi chatima mipnei tikun ha'olam. Sorry, I'm going to continue that sentence actually, but I'm going to stop and translate. So Rabba says, no, it's actually necessary. It was necessary to institute this takana, Rabbi Elazar, for Rabbi Elazar, for his position, because he says, Ede Masira Karte, the witnesses of transmission, the witnesses who watch the get handed over to the woman, they are the ones who seal the deal. They are the ones who make the get effective. So you don't really need edim on the get itself. You need edim, you need witnesses, but the witnesses that count, according to Rabbi Elazar, are the witnesses that watch the get being given over. Takinu Rabbanan ede chatima mipnei tikun ha'olam. But the rabbis added this requirement. They made a takana, they amended the law to require signing witnesses because of tikkun ha'olam. Dezimnin demaiti sahare, because there are sometimes when the witnesses die. Inami zimnin da'azil medinat hayam. Alternatively, there are times when they go overseas. In other words, if the only witnesses that you have are witnesses who can vouch for the fact that they saw the get being handed over, then once you can't find those witnesses to actually give their testimony anymore, you're out of luck. And if someone says, oh, she's not really divorced, and you want to call on the witnesses who saw the divorce, if one of them died or one went overseas, then you can't call them back. So the takana of witnesses that actually sign their names on the get, that gives you a written record. You can compare that signature against other signatures, and that meets the standard of tikkun ha'olam. That goes over and above the requirement for edim that existed previously, according to Rabbi Elazar's position. So I'm going to call this an answer to that challenge. Rav Yosef Amar. Rav Yosef says, Afilu temel Rabbi Meir. You can even say that this is according to Rabbi Meir. In other words, you can even say that we needed this takana according to Rabbi Meir's opinion. Hitkinu shi'ehe edim mefarshin shmotehen begittin. The takana was actually that the edim should spell out their full names in the get, mipnei tikun ha'olam, because of tikun ha'olam. Kidatanya, as it was taught in a breita, barishona haya kotev ani ploni chatamti eid. Initially, people would just write, I, so-and-so, have signed this, I'm a witness. That was all they had to write as an eid chatima, that was all they had to write on the get. Im ktav yado yotze mimakom acher, kasher, v'im lav, pasul. And so, if ktav yado, if his handwriting came out of another place, in other words, if you had another source for knowing this is this guy's handwriting, you have other documents that he signed, then the get would be kosher. V'im lav, pasul. But if not, the get would be pasul. In other words, you could still attack the get. You could attack the validity of the get by saying this is not a real signature. And if you had the person's signature from somewhere else, great. But if you didn't, then you were out of luck. I actually wanted this to be the same color because this is also an answer. And this I'm going to say is proof for the answer, support or proof for the answer. I'll put it on its own line. Okay. Amar Rabban Gamliel, takana gdola hitkinu. Rabban Gamliel says they made a really great takana, a really significant takana. Shihu mefarshin shmotehen begittin mipnei tikun ha'olam. That you have to spell out your name, have to write out your whole name in the get because of tikkun ha'olam. I'd say this is also sort of part of that proof. So we have two answers to the question of how it's tikkun ha'olam. Isn't it really deoraita? We have an answer according to Rabbi Elazar's opinion, and we have an answer according to Rabbi Meir's opinion as to how this takana was actually mipnei tikkun ha'olam and went beyond the baseline deoraita halacha. Uvesimano lo, and with signs not, veha Rav tzier kura. But didn't Rav, isn't it the case that Rav would draw, we're going to list actually a number of rabbis who draw different things. So isn't it the case that Rav would draw a fish, Rabbi Chanina tzier charuta, and Rabbi Chanina would draw a palm branch, Rav Chisda samech, Rav Chisda would just make a samech, Rav Hoshaya ayin, and Rav Hoshaya would just make an ayin, the letter ayin, Rabba bar Rav Huna tzier makuta, and Rabba bar Rav Huna would draw a sail. In other words, we just said that the halacha now is that you have to write your whole name on the get. But isn't it the case, right? Does this really mean that simanim, that pictorial representations don't work? Don't we know that Rav, instead of signing his name, would draw a fish? Rabbi Chanina, instead of signing his name, would draw a palm frond, and so on. These are all famous rabbis who would apparently not actually sign their names, but would draw a little picture so that everyone would know that it was them. And this is a challenge. Maybe I would say, again, this is a challenge and then proof for the challenge, because we have the word veha, right? Isn't it the case? So this is challenge proof. Shani Rabbanan debiki'in simanaihu. Rabbis are different. The famous rabbis are different. Debiki'in simanaihu, because people are good at their signs, or another way to say that is their signs were very well known. People had bikiyut, people knew their signs. Mi'ikara b'mai. Okay, so fine. So they use signs. They use these like little, almost like hieroglyphs to sign instead of their names. And the question is, well, how could they do that? And the Gemara says, well, everybody knew it was them. It was a perfectly reasonable way for them to do it because everyone knew that it was them. Their marks were kind of famous. And then the Gemara asks the question, okay, so their marks were famous, but mikara b'mai, but initially, what did they do? Because it would take some time for their sign to become famous. It would take a little while before everyone just knew that this was, that the fish represented Rav, for example. So what would they do until it became well known? And the answer is afki'inhu b'diske. They would write it. They would use it on letters. So just letters that they wrote to other people that didn't need to be. They weren't legal documents. They didn't need to be kosher in the same way. And so they would use just their sign in the letter, and that was how they would do it. And that was how their sign became well known, and then they were able to go on from there to use them even in legal documents. So this, actually, I think b'mai afki'in hu is really, I'm going to switch this around. Question. And then answer. I'll add a question mark here, and we'll stop there.